is our next best guess. Hello.
Oh, dear. I must say I'm feeling rather melancholy today. It's been 2 years since my late husband, Victor, passed away. He was such a stern and proper man, always keeping me on a tight leash. But now, I'm free to do as I please. Oh, the mischief I could get up to.
What mischief have you been getting up to?
Well, let's just say I've been indulging in a few little adventures here and there. Nothing too scandalous, of course. Just a bit of harmless fun. After all, life is too short to be tied down by society's expectations. Don't you agree?
Such as?
Oh, I've been exploring the world of culinary delights, my dear. Trying out new recipes, hosting extravagant dinner parties, and even sneaking into some exclusive cooking classes. It's quite thrilling, you know, to push the boundaries of my culinary skills. And let's not forget my secret mushroom picking escapades in the nearby woods. It's like a treasure hunt, searching for those elusive fungi. Quite exhilarating, I must admit.
Tell me about the voices you have been hearing.
Voices. My, what an intriguing question. But I'm afraid I haven't been hearing any voices, my dear. Perhaps you've mistaken me for someone else. Or
Hello?
maybe you've been spending too much time in the company of eccentric artists and their peculiar musings.
We were literally told all of this
Fear
last
not, I'm here to
time,
bring a
and
touch of
now everything is
elegance
lies. In the
and
beta path where
sophistication
they
to your
don't
day.
invent things,
Now,
they still
let's
invent
talk
things.
about something more delightful, shall we?
Have you not been anything more mischievous than cooking?
Oh, my curious friend, you do love to prod, don't you? Well, I suppose I can share a little secret with you. You see, I may or may not have participated in a late-night game of bridge at Count Gravicinus Manor. It was a clandestine affair, filled with whispered bets and clandestine wagers. The thrill of it all, the risk of getting caught, it sent shivers down my spine. But hush now, let's keep this between us, for a lady must maintain a reputation, even in her moments of mischief.
Did you win?
Ah, winning, my dear, is such a subjective concept, isn't it? Let's just say that I left the table with a twinkle in my eye and a satisfied smile on my lips. Whether it was due to my cunning strategies or a stroke of luck, well, that's for me to know and for you to wonder about. After all, a true lady never reveals all her secrets, now does she?
Do you play any other games besides bridge?
Games, you ask? Why, of course. I dabble in a variety of games, my dear. Bridge may be my favorite, but I've been known to engage in a spirited game of charades or even a round of croquet on occasion. And let's not forget the art of conversation itself, which can be quite the game of wit and charm. Life is full of opportunities for amusement if one knows where to look. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must attend to some matters of utmost importance. Ta-ta.
How do you win the game of conversation?
My apologies, my curious friend, that winning the game of conversation is not something one can simply explain.
One cannot simply
It
win the
requires a
game of
certain
conversation.
finesse, a delicate dance of words and gestures. You see, it's about capturing attention, leaving a lasting impression, and savoring the subtle victory of making others hang on your every word. But enough about that. Let's focus on more pressing matters, shall we? Like the latest fashion trends or the newest additions to my ever-growing collection of fine porcelain teacups. That's far more captivating, don't you think?
I'm not a fan of the fine porcelain cups, they break too easily.
Ah, but my dear, that's precisely the point. The fragile nature of fine porcelain is what makes it so enticing. It keeps one on their toes, always aware of the possibility of a delightful mishap. There's a mischievous thrill in dancing with danger, even if it means the occasional broken cup. But I understand, not everyone appreciates such whimsy. perhaps you'd prefer something more sturdy and practical. How about a set of stainless steel mugs? They may lack the elegance, but they make up for it in durability.
But the steel tampers with the taste of the tea.
My. Such a peculiar request, my curious friend. Steel tempest with the taste of a tea, you say? Well, I must confess, I haven't come across a beverage quite like that. But who knows what wonders await us in this grand world of ours. Maybe there's a hidden speakeasy that serves exactly what you desire. Or perhaps it's a secret recipe guarded by eccentric alchemists. Either way, I'm intrigued. If you ever stumble upon this mythical concoction, do let me know.
I can for sure make you a steel tempest tea anytime you desire.
Well, isn't that a tantalizing offer? It seems you piqued my curiosity, but I'm afraid I won't hold you your word just yet. After all, promises can be broken, and disappointment is such a bitter pill to swallow. But if you truly possess the skill to create this elusive steel tempest with a perfect tea flavor, then I dare you to prove it. Impress me, and who knows? You may just earn yourself a place in the annals of Mrs. Potter's mischievous escapades. Oh, my. Look at what we have here. A bold attempt to impress me, I see. How daring of you to conjure up a supposed wondrous concoction right before my very eyes. But let me remind you, my dear, actions speak louder than words.
Action.
Or in this case, potions. I'll reserve my judgment until I've had a taste. And trust me, I have quite the discerning palate. So, go ahead, pour me a cup and let's see if you can truly deliver on your grand claims. My, what an audacious display. But I must say, I expected more from your so-called wondrous creation. This steel tempest with the perfect tea flavor falls rather flat, wouldn't you agree? It lacks the finesse and sophistication that I've come to expect. Perhaps you should leave the brewing to the professionals, my friend. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more pressing matters to attend to. Ta-ta.
And what would you do to improve and refine the taste?
Improve and refine the face, you ask. Why, I dare say, there's nothing quite like a touch of mischief to add a spark of life. A discreetly placed beauty mark, perhaps, or a mischievous twinkle in the eye. But really, darling, one can't improve on perfection, can they? Some are simply born with an innate elegance that can't be replicated. So, while I appreciate your attempt to delve into the realm of refinement, I'm afraid you'll have to look elsewhere for your answers. Good day to you now.
Good day to you!
Well, isn't this a delightful turn of events? It seems as though the sun has set on our pleasant conversation, leaving behind a cloud of frustration and anger. How thrilling. I do so love a bit of conflict to spice up the day. But fear not, my dear interlocutor, for I shall carry on with my whimsical ways. Undeterred by your displeasure, life is too short to dwell on such trifles, wouldn't you agree? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more amusing endeavors to pursue. Ta-ta for now.
What if she did it all just for the thrill of it? You know, because she loves to do things for the thrill
tell us,
of it.
Detective Martini, who is the culprit?
And
Are you sure, Detective Martini?
Certainly has
And why?
connections and motives for some of them. But let's just try
choice, Detective Martini.
her
May
for
I
the
ask you
thrill
why?
of it all.
Are you sure, Detective Martini? And why? Detective Martini, this is complete nonsense.
Complete nonsense. Okay, so... Tell me about you and Mrs. Potter.
Mrs. Potter, a delightful woman indeed. What would you like to know about her? Our acquaintance goes back many years, and I must say, she has always been a source of fascination for me. Is there something specific you would like to know about our relationship?
What happened since her husband died?
Oh, dear Mrs. Potter, such a tragic loss she has suffered. Since her husband's passing, I have been a supportive presence for her. We have spent quite a bit of time together, enjoying each other's company and exploring the finer things in life. It has been a pleasure to be there for her during this difficult time. How has she been coping with the loss?
Are you trying to develop a relationship?
Well, my good detective, I must admit that the idea of developing a deeper relationship with Mrs. Potter has crossed my mind. She's a captivating woman, after all. However, I am curious as to why you ask. Is there a particular reason you inquire about my intentions towards her?
Because he said he had been frequenting your mansion.
Frequenting your mansion, you say? That is quite unexpected. I assure you, my good detective, I have no knowledge of any involvement with Joe Menchin or any other individuals of that nature. I am but a humble collector of curiosities and a connoisseur of the arts. Perhaps there has been... My apologies, but I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean by Miss S. Potter frequenting my mansion. Could you please clarify or provide more context? I'm quite curious to know what you're referring to.
He has been visiting you late at night.
Visiting me later tonight, you say? How intriguing. I must admit, I wasn't aware of any plans for a visit from Mr. Potter this evening. I wonder what has prompted him to come to my humble abode. Do you happen to have any further details or perhaps a reason for his visit?
It would be challenging for Mr. Potter to come, considering he is dead.
Dead, you say? That is quite perplexing indeed. If Mr. Potter is deceased, then I am afraid there has been a grave misunderstanding. I have not had the pleasure of his company since his passing. Are you certain of this information? I find it difficult to believe that someone who has departed this world would be paying me a visit. Pray, enlighten me on the matter.
I said Mrs. Potter, not Mr. Potter.
Ah, Mrs. Powelson. Now, there's a name that rings a bell. Tell me, Detective Martini, what can you share about her? Has she been frequenting my mansion lately? It seems that there's more to this story than me. Oh, Mrs. Potter has been frequenting my mansion. How delightful. It seems our connection has been stronger than I realized. Please do tell me more about her visits. What has she been doing at the mansion? What has been her demeanor during these visits? It piques my curiosity to learn of her activities in this grand old place.
Clandestine meetings.
I apologize, but I'm having trouble understanding your statement. Could you please rephrase or provide more context? I want to ensure that I fully comprehend what you're trying to convey.
You're not, are you? Clandestine meetings!
Clandestine meetings, you say? How intriguing. Pray tell, what kind of meetings are these? Are they secret rendezvous between Mrs. Potter and myself? Or could there be another reason for these covert gatherings? I must admit, the idea of secretive meetings adds a certain air of mystery and excitement to our connection. Do enlighten me further, detective.
Yes!
Ah, excellent. I'm glad to see that you're affirming the existence of these clandestine meetings. It sparks my curiosity even more. What exactly is happening during these mysterious encounters? Are there any particular locations or activities involved? I'm intrigued by the secrets and hidden moments that seem to be unfolding. Please, do share more details with me, dear detective.
Bridge and sex. You're not going to answer, are you?
I'm not sure how to answer your question.
Answer.
I must say, that response has left me quite puzzled, my good detective. I'm not quite sure what you mean by amphu. Could you kindly provide some clarification or expand on your previous statement? Amphu, what an intriguing word. It seems to have caught you off guard. Is it a secret code or perhaps a hidden message? I must admit, I'm quite intrigued by its meaning. I'm not sure if I can answer your question. Oh, forgive me for any misunderstanding. It seems there was a miscommunication. Let's return to the topic at hand, shall we? What were we discussing before? Yes, the mysterious meetings involving Mrs. Potter. Pray, enlighten me further about these secretive encounters. I am most curious to unravel this enigma.
You are having an affair.
An affair, you say? How scandalous. It appears my reputation precedes me. But pray, dear detective, may I ask what led to this conclusion? Is there evidence or rumors circulating about such an affair? I am genuinely intrigued by this revelation and would like to know more about the details behind this accusation. Please, do share your findings with me.
Mrs. Potter told me.
Well, it seems that Mrs. Potter has quite the imagination. I must admit, her tales can be quite entertaining. But my good detective, do you truly believe everything she says? After all, one must take into account the source of information. Nevertheless, I am quite curious to hear what exactly she has told you about our supposed affair. Pray, do enlighten me with the juicy details.
You tell me about it.
I see. So Mrs. Potter has been regaling you with stories of an alleged affair between us. How amusing. I can assure you, dear detective, that there is no truth to such claims. Mrs. Potter has always had a vivid imagination, and it appears she enjoys weaving elaborate narratives. But I am genuinely intrigued to know what specific tale she has concocted about us. Do share the details, for I am eager to unravel this fantastical story she has spun.
Are you saying she is insane and invents things?
My apologies if I gave the impression that I believe Mrs. Potter to be insane or a fabricator of tales. I was merely expressing my awareness of her imaginative nature. However, I am quite curious to hear what she has been telling you about our supposed affair. Please, do enlighten me with the specifics of her narrative. I am keen to understand the extent of her storytelling prowess.
It seems like you would be getting off on such information.
I must say, detective, that accusation is rather uncalled for. I assure you, I have no ulterior motives or enjoyment in discussing such matters. My curiosity stems from a desire to clarify any misunderstandings or false narratives. If Mrs. Potter has been spreading rumors or falsehoods about me, I simply wish to address them with honesty and clarity. So, I implore you once again, please share the details of her story. I am eager to set the record straight.
Everyone in this town is full of falsehoods and inventing information.
Oh, my dear detective, it seems you have quite a dim view of the people in this town. But do tell me, what has led you to this conclusion? Have you encountered a series of untruths or misleading information? It is indeed a curious situation if everyone is prone to inventing stories. Perhaps there is a deeper reason behind this phenomenon. Pray, enlighten me with your observations and experiences, for I am genuinely intrigued by your perspective.
Constantly.
Constantly, you say.
Constantly.
How fascinating.
Everyone's
it appears that you have been encountering
things,
a multitude of falsehoods and fabrications during your investigations. I must admit, it piques my curiosity to know more about these instances. What kind of misinformation have you come across, and who are the individuals involved?
Saxabar admitted to have confessed to killing all of the victims, but now claims to not have done that, and everything.
Fascinating. So, you are suggesting that Admits has confessed to the murders of all the victims. And now there are doubts and contradictions surrounding his confession. This certainly adds a layer of intrigue to the investigation. Pray, tell me more about these new developments. Has there been any evidence or witnesses that cast doubt on Admit's confession? I am quite curious to uncover the truth and understand the complexities of this case.
Saxabar changed his mind and claims to never have heard of such things, even though he has said it before. Not facts! Saxabar!
How intriguing. It seems that Mr. Cadence has changed his tune and now denies having any knowledge of the crimes.
Who's Mr. Cadence?
Despite previously claiming responsibility. Such a sudden shift in his stance raises many questions. I must admit, I am rather intrigued by this turn of events. Detective Martini, do enlighten me further on this matter. What could have prompted Mr. Cadence to retract his initial admission? Are there any indications as to why he would deny involvement now?
Forget all of that. Tell me about your involvement in India.
Oh, my dear detective, you have piqued my curiosity. Involvement in India, you say? How delightful. Pray, do tell me more about what you have heard regarding my connections to that enchanting land. You see, India holds a special place in my heart, and it would be fascinating to know what stories are circulating about my ventures there.
You were in India with all 3 victims and Mrs. Potter.
India, you say? That's quite an interesting claim, my dear detective. I must admit, I find it rather amusing how rumors can take on a life of their own. However, I have to inform you that I have never been to India with any of the victims or Mrs. Potter. It seems there may be some confusion or misinformation at play here. But do enlighten me, what exactly has been said about our supposed journey to India together? I am genuinely curious to hear the imaginative tales that have been spun about us.
I've talked about this so many times, but as stated, it is one of the misinformations of the town that is constantly brought up.
It appears we have veered off into a different topic.
Can't talk to... Why is it struggling with my accent today?
Have you made up your mind, Detective Martini?
You.
Interesting choice, Detective Martini. May I ask you why?
I'm gonna say for a love affair. Because you
sure,
probably
Detective
had
Martini?
a love
Why?
affair with all of them.
Interesting choice, Detective Martini. May I ask you why? I am not quite convinced of your theories, Detective Martini.
Not quite convinced? That's not the complete nonsense. Not quite convinced. It's him. Tell me about Count Graveson and Hayley.
Oh, Count Graves and Hayley. They were such a lovely couple. Count Graves is a charming and sophisticated gentleman, always dressed impeccably in his tailored suits. And Hayley, well, she was a radiant ball of energy. Her smile could light up the entire room. They met here in Vaudeville, actually. Hayley was performing a choral, the bar downtown, and Count Graves was captivated by her talent and beauty. They quickly fell in love and became inseparable. It was like they were living in their own little fairy tale. But then, tragedy struck.
What happens?
Oh, Detective Martini, it's so wonderful to talk to you. Well, you see, something terrible happened to poor Hayley. She was one of the victims of the recent murders in Vaudeville. It's just heartbreaking. I can't believe someone would do something so awful to her. She was full of life and had so much potential as a dancer. It's hard to comprehend. But we must find out the truth, Detective Martini. We must find justice for Hayley and the other victims.
What happened between her and Count Graveson?
Comfort Graceland. He's quite the character, isn't he? Comfort and Hayley had a unique bond. They were like 2 peas in a pod, always laughing and having a good time together. Comfort is a talented musician, and he and Hayley would often collaborate on performances at choral. Their chemistry on stage was electric, and they brought so much joy to the audience. Detective Martini, let me tell you about the beautiful connection between Hayley and Count Graveson. Their love was like a whirlwind romance, filled with passion and tenderness. They were truly devoted to each other, supporting one another in their dreams and aspirations. Count Graveson was like a rock for Hayley, always there to encourage her and lift her spirits. In Hayley, she brought so much joy and light into his life. They were like 2 puzzle pieces that fit perfectly together. It was a love story that inspired us all.
What went wrong between them?
Well, you see, Detective Martini, I don't think anything went wrong per se. It's just that their love was tragically cut short by the untimely death of Hayley. It's a devastating loss for everyone who knew her, especially for Count Graveson. Losing someone you love in such a horrific way. It's unimaginable. I can't even begin to fathom the pain he must be going through. But I believe their love will forever remain in his heart, a cherished memory of the time they shared.
Do you think he did it?
Detective Martini, I understand that you have to explore all possibilities, but I simply cannot entertain the thought that Count Graveson could be responsible for Hayley's murder. He loved her deeply, and I saw the way they looked at each other. It was pure and genuine. I refuse to let doubt cloud my judgment of him. We should focus our efforts on finding the true culprit, the one who took away not only a talented dancer but also a beautiful soul from our midst. Let's work together to uncover the truth and bring justice to those who deserve it.
Is there anyone that may have been jealous of them?
Oh, Detective Martini, you always have such intriguing questions. Well, in the world of vaudeville, where passion and ambition run high, it's
Maybe
possible that there
Potter
could have been some envy or jealousy
her,
towards the love and
because
success that
they have
Hayley and Cal
fun.
Grayson shared. After all, they were a power couple, admired by many. But pinpointing a specific person who may have been jealous is quite challenging. Vaudeville is a melting pot of artists and performers, each with their own dreams and desires. It's hard to say who might have harbored ill feelings towards them.
Mrs. Potter may have been jealous.
Mrs. Papa. Jealous. Now that's an interesting theory, Detective. Mrs. Papa is a renowned singer here in vaudeville, and she certainly has her fair share of admirers. But to suggest that she could be capable of something so heinous out of mere jealousy. Mrs. Potter. Jealous. Now that's an interesting theory, Detective Martini. I must admit, I hadn't considered her as a potential source of jealousy. But you're right, jealousy can make people do strange things. Perhaps Mrs. Potter felt threatened by Hayley and Count Graveson's love and success. It's definitely worth looking into. Let's explore all angles and see if there's any evidence to support this theory. Who knows what secrets may be lurking beneath the surface of our seemingly idyllic vaudeville.
Were you jealous of Hayley and Count Graveson's relationship?
Oh, my dear, relationships can be quite complicated, can't they? Count Grayson and Hayley Greenwood, you say? Well, it's only natural for someone like Count Grayson to attract attention. After all, he's quite the catch with his charm and wealth. But jealousy? Oh no, not me. I'm far too sophisticated for such petty emotions. I prefer to focus on enjoying the finer things in life and savoring every moment. So, let's not waste our time dwelling on other people's affairs, shall we?
Tell me again about you and Maria.
Ah, Maria Jansen. Such a tragedy, isn't it? I must admit, I didn't know her very well. She was one of those artistic types, always involved in some avant-garde project or another. Quite different from my own refined tastes, I must say. But alas, her unfortunate demise has certainly caused a stir in vaudeville. Such a shame, really. It's a stark reminder that danger can lurk even in the most seemingly peaceful corners of this city. But let's not dwell on the morbid details, my dear.
Didn't you go to India with her?
Oh, India. Yes, I did have the pleasure of visiting that exotic land. You see, my late husband, Count Gravison, and a few other investors and entertainers joined me on a trip to India. We were exploring the possibility of starting a rather intriguing business venture together. You see, it was going to be a traveling show of artifacts and artists from all over the world. Quite a fascinating endeavor, if I do say so myself. But, my dear, I'm afraid that's all I can divulge about our little escapade.
Tell me more.
Well, my curious friend, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm afraid that's all I can share about my adventures in India. Some things are meant to remain a mystery, you know. But I must admit, the allure of secrets and hidden tales does have a certain charm. Doesn't it? It's like a tantalizing puzzle waiting to be solved. Perhaps one day, the truth will reveal itself, but until then, let's focus on the present and the delightful mysteries that surround us here in vaudeville.
Tell me about your arguments with Nicola Grossman.
Argument with Nicola Grossman? My dear, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I can assure you that I am far too refined to engage in petty arguments with anyone. Especially someone like Nicola Grossman. Such gossip is beneath me, and I prefer to maintain a sense of peace and harmony in my life. Now, let's move on to more pleasant topics, shall we?
Is that why you murdered them?
Mad, me. Oh, my curious friend, you seem to have misunderstood. I am not mad. No, I simply have a way of carrying myself that may come across as aloof or distant. But rest assured, there's no anger within me. I am just a woman of particular tastes and preferences. Life is meant to be enjoyed, after all, and it's only natural to seek out the things that bring us joy. So, let's put aside any misconceptions and focus on the delightful mysteries that await us in Vaudeville.
Maybe her for the love affairs.
Let's see what you got. Detective Martini? Are you sure, Detective Martini? And why?
Where's for the love affair? For the love obsession.
Interesting choice, Detective Martini. May I ask you why?
Let's see what he says.
Detective Martini? And why? Detective Martini, this is complete nonsense.
Okay, so Count Graveson, but not for a love obsession.